that shit.
Welcome to Trash Talk MMA.
Smile on my face, behind my back, and talk trash.
The #1 podcast for news and insight that matters in the world of mixed martial arts. Brought to you live and unfiltered from all four corners of the globe by MMA aficionado Antoine Pelche.
Yo, and welcome to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Pelche, and today I have a very special guest in the house, tough veteran, UFC veteran, and current 1FC fighter, James, the Sledgehammer McSweeney. James, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, man, it's my pleasure. Now, let's get one thing correct. Is it the hammer or the sledgehammer?
It's a sledgehammer.
It is the sledgehammer, because I see it written the hammer all over the place.
How it first started, my name's kind of evolved over the years. It went from the machine originally, and then to the hammer, and then from hammer to sledgehammer. So it's kind of just evolved over the years, and then now, obviously, with my striking system, it's sledgehammer for sure.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to stick to Sledgehammer. Now, what's interesting is you're really well known for having been on Tough and having competed in the UFC heavyweight division. But what I'd like to roll back to and discuss with you is your extensive past in martial arts preceding MMA. From the research that I've done online, you've had a tremendous amount of fights. When did you get into martial arts, and how did you get introduced into Muay Thai?
I was really lucky. When I was young, I was 5 years of age, and I was just at preschool. One of my friends started to do kickboxing, and so he was telling me about it, and he got his outfit and all these things. So my mum and his mum were friends, and we were going to go and discuss, and maybe I can go down there and see if I would like it or not, or see if it would suit me. So we head down to this gym in Windsor, and Combat Academy it was called, and just started to just go and train. And then, I mean, when you're 5, it's not really kickboxing or Thai boxing. It's just like jumping jacks, running, sprinting, and kicking and punching. I was just an overactive kid. I had a bundle of energy, and it was just a release for me as it started. It wasn't until like later on, maybe 7 or 8, it started to get a little bit more serious, which is kind of funny for a kid, I guess. But I started to mature and show natural ability that I could punch and kick and all these things. And for a long time, I wanted to fight. And as a kid, because I see everyone else in the group, like there was other adults in the group that were competing and fighting, and then I see them with abs. And my older brother used to watch all of the martial arts movies like Jean-Claude Van Damme and all these things. So I always aspired to be kind of like that, I guess.
Well, what's interesting about that is when you spend time in Thailand, you realize that a lot of kids grow up doing exactly what you said, but they're Thai kids. It's not really common for a Western child to be immersed into martial arts at such a young age. So it's interesting that you've actually followed a blueprint similar to many Thai Muay Thai fighters.
It's just a major difference between the two cultures. Is obviously here in Thailand, it's a huge part. I mean, I was at a fight show last night, and there was a 12-year-old kid fighting there, and it's just a different. In Thailand, there's a couple of avenues for them to go down to earn money. Thai boxing is a huge avenue for them. There's a few others, but as a man, and Thai boxing for a kid, that's a good avenue for him to show discipline, earn his family money, and build a career for himself. Obviously, in England, there's a million other ways to earn money. There's a million other avenues. I remember as a kid in school, when they would ask you what you want to be when you're older, and I'd say a fighter, I'd get sent to the principal's office because they thought I was a troublemaker, and they called my parents in and say, no, your son is a troublemaker, he wants to fight, he wants to be a fighter. And of course, we're going back to 1988, 1989. It was unheard of back then, so there was no platforms really that were popular back then. K1 didn't exist, UFC didn't exist. So it was really kind of surreal why this kid would want to go out there and fight, So they just thought I was an aggressive kid. I had a problem.
I mean, were you?
No, I really wasn't. I love sports.
You wanted to compete.
I just wanted to compete, and I used to play football. I played basketball. I played hockey. I played rugby.
You played hockey?
Yes,
excellent.
I played everything. I mean, I was semi-professional at football, at soccer. I tried out for the Wasps in rugby. I was an accomplished athlete. I was pretty good all round, but it was just come to a decision finally. I had my first fight when I was 13, and once I had that fight, the decision was made. Even still, I was playing for Arsenal Football Club at the time when I was a kid at 13, semi-professional. And it come to a point of a choice. I remember I had a grading to go and do for Thai boxing or play soccer that day. and I went and did the grading, and then went to the soccer match after and played, without telling them. I did a 4-hour grading and then played soccer straight after the same day, and I was exhausted. But it would come to a decision like, you need to make a choice. Like, what are you really going to do? And for me, it really wasn't any other choice. It was, okay, I'm going to be a fighter.
That's a pretty cool story. I know I was like, you said you had an older brother? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was into the, I loved martial arts movies, loved the Van Damme stuff, loved the Steven Seagal stuff, loved the ninja movies. I don't know if you remember watching ninja movies. I used
to watch China O'Brien, all the old movies, a female martial artist. I had to be into everything. Dolph Lundgren, the list goes on.
All the guys in the
so many
Expendables.
In the old days back then when they were young and in shape, and they keep you loyal. You grew up with these people, so you really Rambos and all these people. You wanted to, I guess, it's marketed very well, and that's the audience they're trying to bring. They want you to be that lifestyle, and for me, it was really a no-brainer.
So you take your first Muay Thai fight at 13.
It was kickboxing.
And in Britain.
In Britain, and I was meant to fight another kid, and I turn up for the show, and of course I'm really nervous to fight. It's my first real contact fight. And the kid doesn't show. So I'm waiting around, and we miss our slot, and the kid doesn't show, and they said, that's it, we've got no one for your son. And my dad come and tell me, and I'm like, I'm crying my eyes out, I'm so disappointed. But I think it's the emotion roller coaster of the day. Like, I'm nervous, I'm scared, and then they give me the news that it's over. I kind of just like flooded with tears. So I said, there must be someone for me to fight. Like, I want to fight someone. He said, no, there's nobody. I said, ask them. Like, I'm getting bratty now. Like, ask them.
Just make it happen, right?
So he's like, okay, like, shut up. I'm going to check. So my dad storms off. I must have pissed him off somewhere. So he goes to the guy, and the guy says, there's no one here, but there's one kid, but he's like an adult. He's like 16, but he's got a beard. Like, he's going to be too much for your son. So my dad tells me, and I said, I'll fight him right now. Let's do it. So my dad said, there's no way. He said, look at him. And I said, I want to fight. I want to do the fight. So he's like, okay, you're going to get your ass kicked. Let's go and do it to shut you up.
Amen. Trial by fire.
So I see this kid, like, once I get in the middle, I'm like,
now I want to know what happens.
This kid's huge. Like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. But, you confront it, I guess. And then I must have just closed my eyes and made a punch and a kick and knocked him clean out with a head kick.
No way.
It was like one punch, one kick out in like 4 seconds.
So from the start of the fight?
Literally, as soon as they went whistle, I threw the one punch, one head kick, bang, and I caught him. He didn't touch me once. And it was just like, I was in more shock, I think, than he was, because the kid was unconscious.
And your dad must have just gone berserk.
Everyone just, because you could imagine the size difference between me and this kid.
That's David versus Goliath.
Everybody come to watch, all the parents, all the kids come to see me get my ass kicked. And it was like Mike Tyson said, it was love at first fight. So
love at first fight.
Yeah, I was hooked after that. There was no going back.
Yeah, so to say you were hooked and no going back is an understatement. From the numbers that I was able to pull off the net, I'm seeing a 149-9 Thai boxing record. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
With 79 knockouts?
About that. To be honest, it was like...
It must be a blur.
It was when I got into the... No, it was just when I got into the UFC, they wanted to know the whole past history of what I did. So it really took me and my old coach, my mum, my dad, and some people to sit around and try to dig out every avenue. Because my mum's house is like a shrine of mine. Like, she has every poster, everything I've ever done. Like, she hunts it down. She loves it.
You know what? Could she send me some pictures of that?
Oh, for sure.
I think that'd make for...
She actually just has sent me a load just now, so I can pass them to you over.
Send me now. I'll include them in the blog post. I think that'd be a cool look.
And it was like, God, we have to try and figure it out, because he's like, oh, do you remember this fight? I was like, oh, I don't really remember that guy. And then, but you did that. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Like, it takes, because it's just, it's just all one. Like, when you look back, it's just so many, It
must be like trying to rebuild a family tree, though. You know what I mean? Like, you literally had to go generations back.
A lot of the fights were here in Thailand when I was young. Yeah. And I would fight, like, maybe fight on Saturday and get paid just enough money to pay all my bills and my rent and food and everything, but that would leave me with nothing. So I would fight Sunday as well, to get the extra money, like to go and take a girl out or hire a scooter or something, you know what I mean? So I would always fight pretty much twice a week if I wasn't injured. So I really did knock up some numbers, and and we would go and fight at different places. I mean, there was one place that I used to fight. It was more like it was like a strip club mentality. Like, they would call out different fights. So they would have all the card out there, and the crowd would pick who they want to see fight who. And as long as they kept putting money into the tub, you would continue to fight. And of course, 90% of the time, I'm the only Westerner, so they always want to see me fight. So sometimes I'd fight 3-4 times a night. because they would, if they keep paying, you have to keep fighting.
I see you fight 4 times a night against unknown opponents.
Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they'd be bigger guys, sometimes they'd be smaller. I mean, I was a kid back then too. I was like 16, so I wasn't like the size I am now. You know, so it really wasn't. I mean,
that's just maverick, man. It's so interesting to hear these stories of how these fights and people's careers go down like that here, and the frequency at which they fight.
Well, I think it did me a lot of good, and then it did me a lot of bad too, because there was one stage, pretty much once I was into the UFC, at one stage really, I really got so numb to fighting, because I'd had a lot of K1 fights after my Thai boxing career finished. I had another 44 K1 fights, official K1, like not K1 rules like everyone. Official K1. And then I got my opportunity to go to the UFC, and so when I got there, it was like I had nearly 180, 190 fights. Like it's
how many K1 fights do you have?
44.
42
and 2 I was.
Okay. Yeah, I saw 39 and 4.
And they would, I almost come desensitized to fighting. Like there was really no more nerves backstage. I really just become desensitized to it. And it was, if it wasn't for the help of my mind coach Elliot Rowe, when I was in Las Vegas, I met up with him, and he's a sports hypnotherapist. He pretty much brought me back from the dead. Like he can,
a sports hypnotherapist.
Yeah, and I still work with him to this day. For the last 4 years, I've been working with him now.
So I mean, we hear about sports psychologists. I remember George St. Pierre talking about that.
It's a very similar thing, but basically, what a sports hypnotherapist does is a mental coach. So basically, I would do personal sessions at his house, whereas now we do it over Skype. And what he would do was he put you in a subconscious state. So you could snap out of it if you choose to, but there's like some parts, like we'd have a conversation and he would record them, and he would be able to go into my brain and ask me questions that I probably couldn't be able to know the answer to, and pour these answers out of my body and I'm in a subconscious state. So it's not like you're hypnotized as in like, I'll go and do the funky chicken dance on stage, but you're teetering between the two. You're half awake and half, but you're completely relaxed, and that enables you to answer honestly and openly, and he found some information going back into my past that was holding me back from pushing forward, like holding on to some losses, holding on to the reason why I lost, personal reasons in your life. And these were things that we had to, okay, well, if that happened when you was a kid, now being an adult, go back to that person. What would you say to yourself back then as a 15-year-old kid? What would you say to yourself? And you'd say, oh, you're going to be all right. There's a big future ahead. Don't worry. Yeah. Okay, it's done. Now move forward. And then that's repaired. So there's no more. You're stopping the circle of the issue. Make sense?
Yeah, you're coming full circle with the issue.
Yeah,
you're closing the loop.
With it. There's so many things that could have happened in your life, in a normal person's life, let alone someone who's traveled the world, been a fighter for his whole life, that you haven't dealt with. Subconsciously, you just manned it up. Like, forget about that stuff. But really, the damage is still done.
Oh, and we do it all the time.
Because you put a front on. But then when you're putting yourself under such a high spectrum of spotlight, these things will come to the surface. And that was one of my major problems when I really hit the big show again with the UFC, is that A, I was underprepared. I mean, I did Jiu-jitsu for like 6 weeks. I wasn't a heavyweight. And B, I was holding on to some negativity in my life that I was battling with. And it really, but whereas now I've dealt with it and moved on, and my previous performances in the last 2 years pretty much show that, I really feel like I'm starting to fight to my potential and really starting to blossom. So
yeah, let's talk about that. You've had 3 fights in ONE FC. How did you get into the ONE FC? How was that connection made?
I got a phone call from Matt Hume originally, like 2 years ago, and they wanted me to fight Melvin Manoff.
Cool.
And I said, yes, I'll take the fight now, no problem. I want that fight.
At 205?
Well, that's what I thought, because Melvin's gone from heavyweight to light heavyweight to 185 and all these things in between. And I said, okay, I'm about 108 kilo right now. What's the weight class? He said, you're going to fight 185 pounds. And I was like, I'm like 250.
You know what you got? You need a potato peeler to start just lopping off things.
Melvin's not going to fight above his weight level anymore. He wants to fight middleweight. And I said, how long do we have? He said, 3 months. I said, I'll do it now, no problem. I'll start dying now. So I remember I was in my car driving home. So I didn't put the phone down. I said, yeah, I'll take the fight, no problem. Put the phone down, called my nutritionist and said, like, you got to come to my house now. We got to get the plan. And a week went by, I'd already started dieting, and then I got a phone call back from Matt and said that Melvin was going to go down a different road. He wasn't going to fight me, he was going to fight a UFC veteran. And he fought the UFC veteran and lost on their show.
On the ONE FC card, right?
Yeah.
I know he's had a fight there. I forget
the guy's
against
name. He forgot the and that was where I was really disappointed, because Melvin's a warrior, and I never say to guys, "Oh, people refuse to take fights," because fighters don't refuse fights. That's what we do for a living. He just made a different choice. They said that he felt that I was too big, and even coming down, I was going to be too big, and he wanted to revamp his career and fight smart from now on. So I respect his decision, but yes, I was frustrated. So I allowed that frustration to Matt and said, like, "What's up? Like, this is not right." Then they called me back and asked me to fight Roger Gracie at heavyweight in 6 weeks. So I was like, oh my God, I just started dieting, and now I'm like 220 pounds. Like,
yeah, you're doing the yo-yo right now.
Yeah, okay, so now I've got to be heavyweight again. Call my nutritionist. I said yes to the fight. 6 weeks time, come around the house, build the plan, start flipping it the other way. Then Roger Gracie fought on a World Series of Fighting card.
Yep.
In that fight, or I forget now, it was either in the fight or in that training camp, he hurt his arm. So they postponed our fight another month. He was going to recover. So then I wait, I continue training, get a thing, okay, a bit more time to get bigger and stronger. Then it gets cancelled.
Dude.
So I was like, listen, so I called him back and said, listen, like, what's up? Like, this is not right. You've asked me to fight this way, you asked me to fight that. I said yes to both. Like, if I don't get the fight, where's this leave us? What's going to go on? Am I going to get a contract? Are you going to think?
Well, you're doing all this work too. I mean, you're doing all this physical work. I said,
like, no disrespect, but I'm the kind of fighter that a promotion like you should love, because I'm going to fight multiple weight categories. I fight anyone you ask me to fight. And
you either kill or be killed. You put on a show.
Let's go and have a fight, you know. And I have an interesting spectrum. I have fans from America, from England, from all over the world, you know. So I can bring new people to the environment. So Max, I'll call you back in an hour. He called me back and gave me a contract. So that was really cool. And then we went.
So are you happy with your relationship with them right now?
Yes, I'm happy with ONE FC. I mean, they're really good. I would like to stay more busy, but then, you know, I have to understand that my whole career I've had a lot of fights, as we just discussed. So I love to stay active, but you know, there's a certain frequency, and as what they've just told me, because I have just had a meeting with them about this. To be honest, they just explained to me that, listen, you know, we can't stick you on every show. We can't build you. You know, we pay you a lot of money, so we need to make sure we maximise publicity for both ends of the spectrum. We can't have you on every 2 months.
It needs to be an event when you fight.
You need to be on a bigger event. We can't just stick you here, stick you there. And it's not so easy to get you matched. Like you said, even after your last loss, the first 2 wins you had in 2 different weight categories were high-level wins. So it's not like everyone's queuing up to fight you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, you know, I like to watch every major MMA event that happens. I love to watch them live. I'm a junkie of that. And I keep a lot of tabs on ONE Championship. But as a Westerner and as a UFC fan and a Bellator fan, a World Series of Fighting fan, I'm always looking at their cards and being like, I don't know anybody on here. Yeah. And then when a guy like you pops up, or Roger Huerta pops up, or a Brandon Vera pops up, I'm like, cool, there's at least somebody that I'm familiar with that I'm excited to see, functioning in another big promotion.
That's why you'd always think that at least one show they would do that. But then again, I mean, we're looking at it from a kind of selfish spectrum. I mean, for me, looking at it, I'm always because I just want to fight. I don't really care if it's my job, you know. And me sitting around not fighting is like you not going to work every day.
Yep.
Eventually, you get bored, you know. And no matter how many other things you try to occupy your time with, it doesn't fulfill that hunger that you have, you know. It's a part of your DNA, So, in that respect, like, I see what they say, but yeah, I mean, in the Asian community, there's a huge amount of fans. It's China, Japan, Korea. They got some amazing Filipino fans. They got all over the world. So they know these fighters. They're familiar with them. They're their hometown heroes. I just was in the show in KL just last weekend and Friday, and it was like a 15,000 packed out arena. And no disrespect to any of the fighters on the show, they're all pretty relatively new to MMA.
Yep.
You know, with an exception of a couple maybe, but it rammed the place out. They hit great numbers on television. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they're building people and they're making fans. They're making them worldwide. And of course, when the bigger shows turn up, like, I was kind of a honourable thing for them to say to me, and it made me feel a little bit silly. Like, you fought on every big card we've had. We've had 2 big cards in Manila, which is like 22,000 people. You're on both of them. We're the biggest show we've ever had expense-wise in Dubai. We put you on it. Like, we can't just stick you on a little 5,000 arena show. It doesn't make sense to us. We have too many expenses. So after that, I was kind of like, ooh, just got a little bit told off by the boss. But in the end of the day, I'm still going to bug him. I want to fight, and I'm going to call out everyone I want to fight. And if I don't get it, I'm going to keep doing it. So I want a rematch with Roger Gracie. I want to fight Brandon Vera. I want to fight everybody that's anybody in this arena, because I believe that I can beat every one of them in both weight categories.
I mean, the great thing here, though, is that they're making you a priority. Like, it's great. You know, you're a star, and they're giving you the star treatment. And ultimately, I think, like they said, they're doing what's best for them. You know, they want to make sure that when you're there, that all eyes are tuning in, and ultimately, I mean, it's best for you. It
is on the long run, but like you say, you just want to stay busy.
Yeah, you're hungry.
But it's especially after coming off the back of a loss, and the way I lost against Roger, I had a terrible training camp. This is no excuses whatsoever. It's just facts. Roger did a good fight, and he won. I hurt myself, and he maximised it, and he won. Fair play to him, and I said that to him after the fight. I know what I had going on in my training camp physically. I know how I went into the fight physically, and I was already injured before the fight, and unfortunately it came out in the fight. So I feel a little bit like there's unfinished business there. So that night I was in the hospital. I already emailed them both and said that I wanted a rematch that night, and I've been emailing them every week asking for the same rematch until I get it.
Knowing that I was going to talk to you, I rewatched that fight, and I was interested in talking about it. I noticed that something appeared to happen to your ankle.
It was my knee, actually. Yeah, my right knee. I during my training camp, I tore my MCL.
Okay.
And I shouldn't have been kicking with my right leg at all. So I hadn't kicked the whole camp, only boxed. And when I went to the fight, my trainer from Holland came, and he wanted me to kick, and I said, my leg is jacked up really bad, you know. And he said, well, just try it out. He's open this side, make the kick and see what happens. So I made one kick, and of course I dropped him with a head kick.
Yep.
And then so I had some success with it. Then I was going to the body, and the leg kicks were landing, and then of course we're caught up in a bit of a war. In the second round I kick him again, and then as I land, it gave way, and I kind of hopped it off. And I heard his corner, like Henzo was in his corner, and he's so smart, Henzo. So he hurt his foot, I could hear him.
Yeah.
So I hit it, and I came out.
The announcer said it too.
Yeah, and I kind of hit it, and I kind of fight a little bit. Went back to the third round, and then because I fractured my eye socket and I had a cut. And then they were going to try and stop the fight.
Yeah, and I remember I saw what you said.
Yeah.
You were like, just get the F out of here.
I wasn't happy about they were even thinking about stopping the fight. I told everyone to leave. And I stood up, put my mouthpiece in, and walked away from everybody. And
yeah, that's not an option.
No, for sure not. And then in the third, I looked up at the clock and thought it was like 1 minute 10 left or something like that. And I thought, right, I'm really going to impose and make sure I get this win. And I went, put pressure, and I just threw the leg kick. And as I landed, it went and just tore and just gave way. And I kind of hobbled back and then he ran in and teeped me, put me down, and jumped in punches. But
so did that teep hurt you at all though? Because
not really. I mean,
because it looked like you clutched your side.
Yeah, I think it was just bad timing of the two together. When you already feel pain. I mean, I don't know if the teep wasn't enough to put me down healthy. Put it that way.
Yeah.
With the two things together, it was enough to put me down.
Yeah. But
then I was getting straight back up, and the referee had stopped it. And I mean, Olivier is a great referee, and he did his job to protect the fighters. And I mean, even if I did get up, I felt like I'd already come through his legs and stood up when the referee stopped it. Would I have been able to continue? Probably on aggression and sucking it up a little bit. But then again, who knows? I mean, you can't say it didn't happen. So I'm not going to ponder over if buts and whats. Roger did a good job. He won the fight. I made my mistakes. I went in injured as well. And when you take that risk, if I had the head kick knocked him out, we wouldn't have this conversation right now.
So right now, the biggest fight you're looking for is a rematch here with Roger.
I would love that rematch straight away. I don't think I'm going to get it straight away. I don't know. I heard through a whisper that they were going to give me it straight away because they felt it was not unjust, but I was injured as well, and it was an exciting fight. But I mean, who knows what is going to happen, you know, and who does it and how they do it. I really couldn't say. So
I mean, you touched on a few things that I want to roll back to. At 1FC19, you fought Cristiano Kaminishi, and you finished him with a right straight and a soccer kick KO. Mm-hmm. Now, you've fought in a gazillion promotions in a ton of different countries. I mean, looking at the record, like Philippines, Dubai, Slovenia, USA, Sweden, Australia, Canada, England. I mean, the list goes on, and a gazillion promotions. You finished a fight with a soccer kick. That's not allowed in a lot of places and a lot of promotions. As you've been traveling over the years and going to different shows with, different nuances in the rules, is that confusing for a fighter?
I mean, to be honest, it used to be confusing for me not to do it when I got with these shows, because coming from more of a street mentality, that was something that you had to do, you would do. I think for me personally, it fits my personality of fighting way better. I mean, I like, to be honest, in the UFC rules, when someone goes on the floor, for me not to kick him, I have to tell myself not to do it. Yep. So to be able to do it is just like free run. When I fought in the Croatian shows or the Slovenia shows, they were all soccer kicks and headbutts.
Headbutts.
Yeah. So. So you have to go with the rules of wherever you fight, and you train for them, and they're things you have to train. Like, people think, especially with headbutts and stuff like that, like, people just think it comes natural. It really doesn't. You have to put the combination together, then make the punch, headbutt, knee, punch, kick, and make it.
Is that something you like to throw?
Yeah, if the rules allow it, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a great weapon. It's a great tool to get the job done. And and if you can keep it in your arsenal, it's the same as making an elbow, it's the same as making a knee. But all of a sudden, because it's unseen in a lot of martial art rules, people say headbutts, wow, that's terrible. Or like, wow,
I'm not gonna lie, I've never heard of a promotion allowing them.
Or wow, it's graphic, and of course it is graphic, and to some people it should be foreseen as like that factor, But then, to be honest, when you look at it as an athlete or a fighter, as what you do for a living, it's really no different. A kick in the head, or a headbutt, or an elbow in the face, or a knee in the face, it all hurts.
Well, I exactly. But I mean, I really struggle with these rule changes of how, like, okay, how come somebody can head kick somebody on the feet and then it's illegal on the ground? As a fighter, what's the difference there?
To be honest, there is no difference apart from, obviously, on the ground, his range of defense is a lot less.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like pride rules. You could stamp on the head.
Yep. Yeah, the foot stomps.
But one FC, you can't.
Yep.
I mean, to be honest, a kick in the head is much more ferocious than a stamp, in my opinion.
Well, there's just more torque and velocity on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, if someone gave me the two options, I'd say stamp on my head all day than kick me in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. How do we...
How does that weighted?
Exactly. And this is like, I've had this debate for years. Like, not only have I been a fighter, but I've also coached and cornered a lot of people, and I've met these rule sets all over the world. Like, when you wrap somebody's hands, you can't put any tape on a certain part of the knuckles whatsoever. It has to be one finger back from the knuckles.
Okay.
But I can elbow you in the face.
Yep. There's no tape there.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, there's some things like I can kick you in the head, but I can't knee you in the face. Or I can knee you in the face and I can't elbow. What's the difference here, really? All they're trying to do is make certain rule sets to suit certain crowds or what their opinion of, to trying to be different. The fact of the matter is, all of these promotions all try to be different. Like, some people embrace the UFC rules, so they want to see the UFC rules. Then the crowd say, yeah, it's great to have UFC rules, but they're not as good as the UFC fighters. So then you have another promotion who want to make, we're going to stand different from the UFC. We're going to allow soccer kicks and headbutts on knees and elbows and all these things that they don't allow. And then...
Which is going to make a real fight.
Yes, yeah. We don't have no rules or very minimal rules to meet another spectrum. And then you have people that like that kind of thing, and then you have other people that say like, oh, it's because they're not skilled enough, they have to do this. So you can never win. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, a fight is a fight. And yeah. I think for me personally as a fighter or an athlete, I just fight by the rule set I'm given. That's my job.
So let's talk about this soccer kick rule in 1FC, because from what I've read and what they've said, the ref needs to give you the green light to throw a soccer kick to the head of a downed opponent.
No.
Because Andrei Arlovski did that to Tim Sylvia and got no contest because of that.
What happened was, when they fought, that was the rule set. Okay. The referee had to say he was a downed opponent, like he didn't have any limbs on the floor, touching the floor, like he didn't have a hand or a knee or one knee. So when he was a downed opponent, you could do that. The referee had to say, give you the green light. The day after that fight happened, because there was such uproar about it, they changed the complete rule set the very next day. Okay. And they announced that you can do soccer kick whenever you want a soccer kick.
Because, I mean, in the heat of battle, who's asking the permission from the ref, right?
And no disrespect, but sometimes, I mean, the refs aren't on the ball. They have enough things to do.
Everybody does at that time.
Exactly. You know what I mean? They're also weighing up like it takes a fighter probably, I can't even say 1/100th of a second, like 1,000th of a second. Like if you saw my fight when I kicked Kaminsky, a pass guard and instantly soccer kick him once he hit the floor.
You didn't.
So it was in a fraction of it. There was no thought process there. Yep. For that to happen efficiently, if I didn't react that same way, maybe I couldn't have kicked him. How could a referee react faster than my reactions and verbally give me the order and me to vocally take it into my brain, process it and deliver it in the same period of time? It's impossible.
So you're now a fighter at Tiger Muay Thai. How'd that connection happen? What brought you to Tiger?
I was at another gym here on the street, and I was doing real well with my classes, teaching and fighting, and I stayed loyal to them when they first brought me out, but things wasn't going the way I wanted it to go, and I was unhappy there. I had a couple of other gyms here reach out to me in the process when I was at the other gym, and of course, like I said, I was loyal. I didn't want to turn my back on anybody who had treated me well. This other gym wasn't treating me so great towards the end. There were false promises and things like this, and so I decided, okay, I've got to do what's best for not just me but my family. You know, I have my wife and my daughter here, and I need to make. So I went and looked at both other premises, and I checked them out, and both premises were very good. I mean, it was professionally done. There had a lot of people there and everything else. This other gym was a relatively new gym, and I feel they're going to do really well in time to come. Like, their setup is amazing, but they were still relatively new. So I chose Tiger because there was 1,000,001 members. It's probably the most famous Thai boxing gym in Thailand, if not worldwide. In Asia, yeah. You know, yeah. It has a great reputation. It has some great fighters here, and it has a fresh. Every week, there's just like a mountain of new people coming through the door over and over and over again.
Yeah, guests, amateurs, professionals.
There was a platform for me not only to get good training and good sparring and good things like this, but there was a great platform for me to build my Sledgehammer striking system and build a class. I mean, I was there 1 month and already I got another class. We hit maximum numbers. We got another class again. We're hitting maximum numbers now. Like, my class yesterday was like 38 people.
So let's talk about that. Your class, Sledgehammer Striking, is one of the more recent and high profile training classes at Tiger Muay Thai, done by a renowned UFC veteran like yourself. It's advertised as Dutch style Muay Thai. Is that correct?
Yeah.
For the uninitiated, how do you define Dutch style Muay Thai?
Well, I trained in Holland from the age of 18 under my coach Lucien Carbin. Now, Lucien trained everybody that's done good. Tyrone Spong, Alistair Overeem, Valentine Overeem, Imro Main, Rodney Glunder. The list goes on of anyone high level in K1 or Thai boxing in the UFC now. Gilbert Iville.
Awesome.
All came from our gym. We all trained together for 10 years together every single day.
Those are some animals, man.
And we were in a gym full of monsters.
Yeah.
And Lucien was so creative and still is to this day. I've been with him since I was 18. Now I'm 34. So he's actually going to be coming out here in the next couple of months to help me for my training camp when it officially starts. And Dutch style Muay Thai is just very different. Of course, Thai boxing in Thailand is very different too. The pace is different, the combinations are different. I feel like Dutch Muay Thai really fits into K1 striking better than Thai boxing does in Thailand, because of the pace and the speed and no clinch and stuff like that. And it definitely fits MMA more, because there's just a whole distance game different. I mean, for me, the transition from K1 at the time to MMA and be a good striker at MMA, I feel it took me nearly 5.5 to 6 years to get my level back, to transition from combinations that work, that don't work, fuse together distance changes, penetration steps, defensive steps, keep in position for underhooks, make sure the takedown doesn't happen, and so forth, and putting that all together as a package. Now I finally feel that in my striking, I'm back to a high level in MMA like it kind of was in K1. If I was to fight K1 again, I have to just spend 3 to 6 months training every day back in Holland. That's where the level changes.
Okay.
Because, if you took one of the best stand-up fighters in the UFC, he wouldn't last 2 minutes with Gokhan Saki in K1. You know what I mean? And Gokhan Saki wouldn't last in MMA unless he trained MMA for 5 or 6 years. So I know the path. I've had to travel it. So if I can fuse that for my fighters in my class and shorten that journey for them and say, hey, listen, I know you want to do this, but this don't work. Believe me, listen to my mistakes. Any win or loss of my record has come from that learning If you look at my record, there's some wins, there's some losses, there's some wins. And people say, why is it so up and down? Like, well, look at the people that I fought. First of all, I fought Roy Nelson. I fought Travis Brown. I fought
Fabiano Maldonado.
I fought some of the best guys in the world. And I was still trying to learn along that road. And it's too of a high-level road to try and learn at the same time. Whereas if I was to go back and fight now against these guys, I'm not saying the outcome would be so different, but it would be a much more competitive outcome or a much more competitive fight. I have much more belief in myself and I understand the game throughout much more. But with my classes, it really helps them guys use combinations from MMA or from K1 or from Thai boxing to MMA. And with Dutch style, it's really open to every avenue. Like you have to, I say to my guys, the sport is evolving from one fight to the next. If you watch John Jones, he does this leg stamp. Yep. Now everyone wants to do a leg stamp. Yep. You watched Anderson Silva teep and knock him out.
Front kicks.
Now everyone wants to do that. Then you see Chael Sonnen take Anderson Silva down. Everyone wants to be like Chael Sonnen. Then everyone wants to be like the next superstar. You know what I mean? Conor McGregor. Everyone wants to fight like him now. And that's the thing. The sport evolves.
The footwork of Dominic Cruz.
Exactly.
Like TJ Dillashaw.
And the list goes on. Yep. Exactly my point. So if you don't stay on the pinpoint pressure of the evolvement of the sport, you're going to be left behind. Yeah. And that's a long way to be left behind. And with traditional Thai boxing, it's very traditional. That doesn't really compel too well to MMA. Whereas Dutch style Muay Thai, it just fits. The sport's always evolving. They're like thieves. They pretty much steal a technique or a movement from every martial arts in the world before it became mixed martial arts. They used kicks and teeps from Taekwondo. They'll use kicks from karate, low kicks from kickboxing or from Thai boxing. They use punching from boxing. They use everything. And that's what's made Dutch style Muay Thai so effective over the years. Every K1 champion in the world has come from Holland. Or at least trained there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So even, I mean, how I say to my guys, and this is no insult to anybody in Thailand whatsoever. It's just talking about, forget the countries. We're just talking about the facts of fighting. Name one Thai boxer from Thailand that's made it in MMA.
Not one.
Why?
It's just not one. Oh, I mean, I think there's several reasons.
So it's like me saying, okay, I want to go and do MMA.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and train with swimmers.
Yep. Not going to work.
There's two different sports. Thai boxing in Thailand is a different sport than MMA. You know what I'm saying? So it's not putting one down or the other. They're both amazing athletes.
Of course.
It's just saying the facts here.
Yep.
So you have to go as a fighter to do what's best for your journey. You know what I mean?
Well, you need to look at the end result. The end result is you're in a mixed martial art fight, and you need to adapt the Muay Thai to that system.
And people say to me, "What do you think? Not training like traditional Thai boxing is not applicable for MMA?" And I said, yes, it is applicable for MMA. If you can make that transfer yourself. Like if I go and box with Freddie Roach, I don't expect him to teach me MMA. I expect him to teach me boxing.
Yep.
It's me as the athlete that has to have the brain function to use and discard what I see fit, that fits my style and the style I'm going to fight. Now, I've been in the sport since I was a kid, so I have experience here. If you're a young kid that's just getting into the sport, or even someone who's been around for a while but doesn't have the ability to digest this information and use it sufficiently, you're going to fall short.
Yeah.
Some people are like soldiers. Like, you can tell them to go and stand in a corner for 12 hours and they'll do it. They won't even question you why. But they don't have the ability to evolve from there. Some people are made to be colonels, some people are made to be soldiers. You know what I'm trying to say? It's very difficult there. So they just do as they're told. They have no thought process on how to evolve those techniques. Whereas in my class, I really try to do the best I can to explain the positives, the negatives, the reason why this will work, the reason why this may not work. If you meet this guy, he's going to do this, then do this to counter this. And I really try to fuse that gap for them. And I mean, so far the feedback's been really cool. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding when it comes to the fact of anyone who wants to do well in striking, in MMA, they bring out Dutch guys. You know, you name the guy, they've pretty much got to train in Holland somewhere, or they bring in somebody else.
It's the Mecca.
You know, and you're involved in the industry, and you're very great vast knowledge, as you can tell. So that's common sense to you. It's like, yeah, that's a known fact. But some people that are very new, it's not known to them because this is Thailand and Thai boxing.
Yeah.
You know
that's what they're promoting.
So, yes, and I understand it. I came here when I was a kid. I have nothing against Thai boxing or Thailand whatsoever. This is my home. I love it here. My first love is Thai boxing. Like you never forget your first love.
I mean, the bottom line though is that in Thailand you can learn Thai boxing for Thai boxing in a number of places.
For sure.
What you're offering here is Thai boxing adapted for MMA in Thailand.
And that's it. I'm not trying to compete with Thai boxing.
Exactly.
I'm not competing at all. I have no interest in training to try and be a trainer. I mean, if a guy comes to me and wants to fight Thai boxing, yeah, I'll help him, no problem. And I'll teach him the Dutch style because that's just my style. That's what I've been brought up with. It's in my DNA. But my main goal right now is to transition these guys, these fighters that want to make it in MMA, help them fuse the gap and make that transition faster and learn from my mistakes. It's not like an attitude thing of where like, I know best. Yeah, I know some things good because I made those mistakes.
Yep.
I had the headache. I had the loss on my record to prove it.
Yep. What I love about what you're saying here is over the past year, we talked about the hypnotherapy, and I know this year I've done a lot of seminars and I'm doing a lot of personal development, reading a lot of books about successful people. And what's great about what you're suggesting here is you've succeeded in certain terms, you've failed in certain terms, you've learned in certain terms, and what people can get from you is they can leverage your expertise, they can leverage your experience and take a shortcut to success.
I mean, I wish I had that myself.
Exactly.
I really do. Like that's
my point here.
When I look at myself now and I see the mistakes I've made and the ones I haven't and I've won and lost, I look and I think to myself, God, man, I wish I had someone to like cut. My career would have been 3 years ahead or 4 years ahead of where it is today in the success ring. But I had to obviously go through that myself. So I think to myself, God, that's a marketable cause. If I can do that and help someone else, like wow, like that's amazing to me. I can actually give something back to the sport or to a fighter, or you know, like when a fighter comes. Just the other day, I was in KL and the fighter won. He come up and said, "This win was just because for you. It was your win." And I said, no, it's your win. But like, if someone to say that to you, like it just means that you help them that much that they, you know, it's
karma,
really
man.
like, it's so warm inside. It's like, God, it's, you know, for me, if you can help someone, I mean, that's the idea of us all today. We should be helping each other.
Now, you offer group classes and solo classes.
Yeah.
Let's briefly just touch on the difference between those and what people can hope to obtain from each one.
Well, obviously with a group class, it's more, not generic, but it's more of an overall foresee of what I think people need to learn, like how to block a kick properly, how to watch a takedown, how to put a combination together and make that step or make that movement, what combinations fit for MMA, different kind of clinching drills that, like if you're going to meet a traditional Thai boxing clinch, how to work on the outside and maybe beat that. Whereas on a one-to-one basis, of course, if the guy says to me, okay, I want to work one-to-one, you're getting my sole attention for that time. I'm going to watch you from the minute we start shadow boxing. From the minute you warm up, I'm going to watch any mistake I may see, any bad habits or good habits that you have. I mean, it's all well and good having a good habit. There's no such thing as a good habit. If it's a habit, it's a bad one. Whether you always telegraph this jab, you always make this jab before you make the cross. Yeah, it's a great cross, but it's a habit. You do it all the time. I mean, it's a bad thing. So I get to see this footwork. I get to hold pads from him. I get to feel the power. I get to see who he met. And also, if he has a fight coming up, I always tell them to email me the guy's name. I'll do my research before the one-to-one, and I'll specifically train him not just for the guy's strengths or weaknesses, but also for his strengths. I'll watch both of it, you know, to make sure he gets the maximum out of his time with me.
Yeah, it's funny. Speaking with John Priest, you know, he referred to you as the best striking coach he'd ever met. And just talking with you here and now, it seems like you're not just doing this for the paycheck. You're not just doing this because you like to stay in shape. It seems like you really take your clients quite personally.
This has nothing to do with money. I didn't start this game for money, and I'm not going to finish it because of money. If mixed martial arts or fighting in general was really about money, I would have been a boxer and get paid real. This is about love, passion, pride of your work. Otherwise, what are we doing here? I don't need to give you a cardio workout, make you kick 20 times in a row, and it's not going to do nothing to help you. You're not going to kick 20 times in a row. You're just going to make you tired. It doesn't make you, you a better fighter. Right. Okay, there's sometimes you need to do condition. Great, we'll do condition. But majority of the time, you need to slow down, break it down, go back to the drawing board and work out where the foundation problems are. If you don't have a secure foundation in your fighting system coming from footwork, you can't do nothing. You can build the most beautiful house on a nothing foundation. As soon as you open that door, it's going to crumble. If we can rebuild your foundation and make it as secure as possible, you can build the mansion you want and decorate it as good as you want. You can do what you want with it. You can take it to your maximum level. It makes no difference. Because you have a foundation to withhold any information as much as possible. You can put another story, an extension, a swimming pool. You know what I'm saying here? Like, you can build whatever you like, but if you have a foundation made of paper, and you want to stick all of these combinations on it, as soon as I touch you, you're going to go to sleep. You have no foundation. And this is sometimes what people get caught up with. They want to train their ego. They want to go crazy, and then you go, and the guy's gone. It's like, God, this isn't going to work for you. You need to just stop training your ego. You have to just relax, break it down, build the format, build the process, reevaluate yourself from the outside in, and then create a new you, and the best you we can create. You know, and like I say, I try to help that with all my fighters. I try to give them as much attention, not just. See, what I charge for one-to-ones here in Thailand is considered high. What I was charging in Las Vegas is 2.5 times that. I would charge $300 an hour. Because there's a different revenue there. But at the end of the day, you're not paying for 1 hour with me. You're paying for my knowledge for the last 200 fights.
Yeah, it's an invaluable knowledge transfer.
You're paying for the time I spend in my house looking up your fighters, looking up your background, looking up your process, my brain in putting a complex training schedule forward for you. That's what you're paying for.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive approach.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's where some people said to me before, wow, that's expensive. And I said, yeah, it is. Lamborghinis are. And that's not boasting my ego, but that's just saying at the end of the day, like, I can't walk into a Mercedes dealership and buy a high-level car that's had years of technology building up to get that car to where it is today for a price of a Fiat. You understand? And there's a lot of work goes on outside of that 1 hour that you're just not aware of. I don't know if they think that I do that. Maybe because other trainers don't do that. They don't think it happens. Well, it does happen for me, because the better you perform after our sessions, the better I look. When my fighters go out there and destroy opponents and win with class, there's no more satisfaction for me than if I did it myself.
It's what I like to call an accelerated learning process. You're giving people shortcuts to success. Yeah, you know, and that's part of the price. And the thing is, there's no guarantees. Of course, mistakes can happen. It's a fight. Things happen, but it's like a Formula 1 Grand Prix. The car's in the best condition, the driver's in the best condition, all the equipment's the best it can possibly be. But you know what? Sometimes you hit that nail and you get that tire punctured. It just happens. This is the thrill of love. If you don't want to lose a fight, don't fight. It's simple. And if you can't handle it, you're in the wrong game. You're all going to win and you're all going to lose. But it's how you regain from that. I mean, and there's no one like, I mentioned earlier, I've been boxing with Freddie Roach for the last 6 years. And I have, obviously now I'm here, I don't get to see him as much as I used to when I lived in Vegas, and I met Manny on many occasions, and I've never seen anyone handle a loss like Manny handled a loss. And he almost looked at me as if I was stupid and said, if you can't handle losing, don't fight. And I was like, yeah, I guess. But it really bothered me, like I can't sleep and this and that. He said, I sleep like a baby, it's meant to be. If I lost, it's meant to be. And that outlook, it really rubbed off on me and really penetrated my heart more than he imagined, because I thought to myself, God, like, you spend so much more time on self-loathing and self-pity of like why you lost and this and that and excuses and all of these if, buts and whats. Or if only people knew.
It doesn't change nothing. The only fact of the matter is how you deal with adversity. Like I told you today, I had an injury in my thing, and I guess what did it change? If you look on the record, it still says loss. It doesn't make. I made a decision to fight with an injury. As a man, that's my decision. I have to live with that.
Yeah, those negative thoughts. There's an expression they say: those negative thoughts aren't paying you rent. No. Like they're generated. You're wasting energy and momentum with them, and it brings you nothing.
These thoughts live in your mind rent free. Yeah. What's the point? They don't change nothing. So I try to, like, in my classes, in my one-to-ones, I try to give my experience, and it's not putting any caps in my boat whatsoever. I can only give you what I know, and I only ask you what I know, and if I don't know it, I find it out. I believe as a coach, a fighter, or anything else in my industry, I've dedicated my whole life to this, and there should never be a question that you could ask me that I don't know the answer to. And that's why I take. That's why you go to the Grandmasters. I take my pride in it. Yep. And if you said to me, look, if when I'm doing the clinch, if this happens here, I don't know. What's that? I can't ever say that. I must always know the answer, and I make sure that I always do. And I will show you the way out of that combination. I'll show you the dangers of it and the plus side of it. That's my job. That's my lifestyle. I mean, it's funny because I put on my Facebook the other day. I had to go and pop into a gym the other day, and there was an 8-year-old boy hitting pads, and he was good, you know. Good. And I just sat back for a second. I just watched him, and I was meant to have a meeting with someone, but I actually almost cancelled the meeting. I said, I just want to watch this. Give me 10 minutes. And I just watched this boy, and you could see the passion in his eyes, and you could see him listening to his coach and really giving it everything. He was tired, and the coach would hit him, and he would keep going and fighting on. And I was like, we lose sight so much of what we really got in this for. Like, I remember as a kid that feeling, you know what I mean? When money comes and when fame comes and all these other things come and success or failure or whatever it may be, you get drowned upon these other things like, I need to fight for the money. I need to fight because I want to be successful. I want to be famous. I want to be the... No, we started fighting because we enjoyed fighting. We like to learn. We like to process all these feelings, and we'd be inspired. You know what I mean? This is why I got into the sport. I was fighting as a world champion for 1,000 baht. I was a world champion.
Unbelievable.
You know, like I thought K1 tournaments 3 times in a night for like $1,000. So if I was in it for the money, if I was in it for the money, yeah, but I pretty much gave that money out because by the time the tax man took it and I gave the rest of my coaches, I came out with nothing. Yeah. So we're not in it for money, and that's why, like you just said just now, I can see you not coaching from. No, I'm not. This has nothing to do with money or financial gains. I'm not trying to talk anyone up or put other people down to be more lucrative. It's nothing to do with that. It's about what's like, how do you build a cake? Egg, flour, and water. We all know that. It's not going to benefit anyone. It's what makes you better than a cake maker. Because he does that egg, flour, and water a little bit different than you make it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's how I try to say it here. It's not to do with finance. It's just to do with passion.
What I find inspiring about this, though, is that you have created a revenue stream for yourself that you'll be able to take with you for years to come once you've decided to retire as a fighter. And I think that's an important message to share with a lot of up-and-coming fighters. Would you agree?
I think so, because
there's a shelf life there, right?
There's a very popular speech here by Dana White by saying to everybody, like, this, like, a normal person's work career is like maybe 40 years. We have 5 minutes. Yep. If you're good, if you're charismatic, if you're a superstar, you have 5 minutes of fame to go out there, earn enough money as you can, and hopefully along the way you make enough contacts to go on to something else, or you learn enough to use in another division or another area in your life, whether you become an actor, whether you become a gym owner, a trainer, something. Yep. And if you don't be smart enough that money won't last forever, because just like anything, when you start earning more money, you want nicer things. Your holiday gets more expensive. Your wife wants a nicer car. All these things topple on top, so your living of life doesn't, have the same one-bedroom flat when you're earning $1 million a fight. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So your window of opportunity is 5 minutes for us. If we're healthy, what, you're going to go till 40 if you're lucky. Some of these kids aren't getting into this sport until they're 20. So, and that's not at the top end.
A lot of them are getting into 25.
You know what I'm saying? So so you don't have that big window of opportunity. So for me personally, I've been in this sport a long time. I've had a lot of fights. I'm not as young as I used to be. My injuries don't recover as fast as they used to be. So yeah, I have my own striking system. I'm trying to maximize the potential of that. Hopefully it works. I mean, I've been blessed enough to have coached some of the best fighters all over the world. And everyone who ever worked with me has ever always, within, like, I've gone there to train, within a week they've hired me as a coach or similar practice, So now I have 12 affiliate gyms worldwide that use my striking system, a Sledgehammer affiliates of mine.
Very cool.
Obviously, that pay me monthly to use my system, and I run the whole curriculum for their school, going from the kids to the adults.
Where can we find some of these gyms?
My website is just being revamped and rebuilt right now. Yep. So you'll be able to find it at sledgehammer.com, and it'll have the whole affiliation system on there. And for other gyms that want to join or find out information, they can email the right process.
You've franchised.
Pretty much the system, and also being here now and seeing the success it has at somewhere like Tiger Muay Thai, which is such a predominant Thai boxing gym, to be so successful. I mean, you see some classes here that are like 20 people in that class, but they have 10 coaches. My class yesterday had 38. I'm a coach on my own, you know. So it's very applicable to teach large numbers. It's a system on a one-man system, you know what I mean, and still give everyone their particular attention. I walk the gym, and I give everyone as much information. I'm in no rush, and the system is so far, it seems to be working. I mean, and then when they see me fight and I have success, they see that it's applicable for MMA, or it's applicable for my old K1 fights or my old Thai boxing fights. So they can see it's been years and years of knowledge and working forth. So that's pretty much what I've been building, and that will be something that once I finally decide, which I'm not too sure when it will be, to hang up my gloves, that will be something that I will really be paying particular attention to push forward.
So speaking on that, I mean, you've been doing this forever. What are your aspirations as a professional fighter?
My aspirations have always been the same. They've never changed the older I've got. I've tried to be a bit more wise. Like, I always want to be a champion. I believe that I can be ONE FC champion. I'd like to be the first person to ever have 2 belts in 2 divisions. I believe I can have the heavyweight belt and the ONE FC light heavyweight belt. I believe I have the potential to hold both at the same time.
Yep.
And I think that would be it's not out of my grasp. I think whoever gets the heavyweight or the light heavyweight, if they get it before me, I think I have the potential to beat both classes if I have enough time to prepare for that weight class. So that's one thing I would really love. I could see ONE FC being my home to finish my career. And if it's not, and another avenue comes up again, then we'll see. I have unfinished business with another large show. So who knows what's going to happen. But right now I'm happy with ONE FC, and I just want to build my brand and myself and just fight and be happy, you know. I've never really put a time slot on retirement. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I eat healthy my whole life. So I believe I have longevity, and I think that one day when I decide that I don't want to go to work, that's the day to retire.
Sounds good to me.
It's really not a job to have if you don't want to be there, you know.
Yeah. Well, listen, James, I know you're a busy man. I'm going to let you split, but before that, I also know you're very busy on social media. What are your platforms of social media, and where can people reach you?
You can find me on Facebook and stuff like that, James McSweeney. Majority is on Twitter, at McSweeney MMA. Okay. And the same for Instagram if you want to follow or see any video clips from my classes or pictures of me with other fighters or stuff like that, at McSweeney MMA again.
Yeah, I've noticed on Instagram you post a lot of really cool stuff, and you're really promoting the younger guys that you're training. I think it's beautiful. My
Sledgehammer website will be up soon. You'll be able to find that at sledgehammer.com. But that will be more, if you want to find it on Google or something, you'll be able to find it on there. If you type my name and my website, it will just come up as a #1 find. So that's just being rebuilt and redone right now. So that'll be out there soon enough. So
very cool. Well, listen, man, it's been fascinating talking with you. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of things that we could talk about. I'm going to be around for another 6 weeks or so in Thailand. I'd love to get you back in here. I think once this airs, people are going to want to hear more from you. I think it's funny, once some fighters leave the UFC, it almost seems like the public perception is that they're gone. And you're the real proof that you're not. You're still in here fighting for the right reasons. You've kicked things up a notch by delegating and passing off transferring your knowledge to a whole bunch of upcoming fighters. You're training with pro guys, and you're training pro guys all the time at Tiger. I think it's fantastic how you've kept busy and how you just keep moving forward. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'd love to come back on for sure. And if any of the guests listen to the podcast and have any questions that they'd like specifically know or answers to, please contact you and let them know, and I'll do my best to answer any of those questions for the next couple of weeks. On the other platform, notice that the UFC is an amazing platform to fight, but I never ever cared about fighting for the UFC or K1 or any of these shows. Not the disrespect to those shows. As a fighter, UFC didn't exist when I started fighting. K1 didn't exist when I started fighting, so I never really had that aspect to fight for those shows. I just wanted to fight the best fighters in the world to personally test myself. Yep. And if that platform was UFC or ONE FC or K1 or Thai boxing or whatever, then obviously I want to put myself into that bracket and into that test. So for me, these companies didn't exist when I started. And if I'm not with them anymore, doesn't mean my career ends. Yeah.
My career ends when I decide it ends. I didn't ask their permission to start, and I won't ask their permission to finish. So to be honest, my career doesn't end because I stop fighting for this show. It means it goes on and goes on and goes on and goes on until I decide. Anyone who has a normal job, you may work for this company for 10 years. If they fire you or they let you go or make you redundant, would you just give up on life? You just stop fighting? You stop doing your job? No, you go and get another job. And that's what I had to do. I mean, of course, you want to keep in that process, but at the end of the day...
No, but people here can't, I'm sure they can hear it in your voice, but I'm here sitting across from you and can see the enthusiasm. And you seem giddy like a boy probably when you were at 6 or 7 years old, and you've still got that energy and enthusiasm, and I find it very inspiring.
It's funny because, like I said, I'm 34 now, and I can wake up in the morning, on the way to the gym. I feel like I'm a 100-year-old man, and like I can walk into the gym and I'm like
just creaking,
dragging my feet and cracking and crinkling. As soon as I get the gloves on or I put the pads on, it's like I feel like I'm reborn again. Like, doesn't matter how tired I am. Like yesterday,
nitroglycerin in the veins.
I hit 10 rounds of pads, Thai pads yesterday. Then I hit 5 on the bag, and then I had to do clinching for 5 rounds. Then I went straight to the gym, and I taught 4 privates, 4 hours straight with 4 different guys.
You're a beast, dude.
Then I had to teach my class. So by the time I got to my class, I was just exhausted. Like I felt like I cut weight. I hadn't had any time to eat in between, and my class was about to start. And all of a sudden, I had like 40 guys come into my gym. And it was just like
give us all you got.
It was so overwhelming to see that, man. They just gave me energy. As soon as I see so many people want to come and train. No, of course. And it's just like, then I was back to square one. I went home and almost died, but I had cramp all night. But then, last night one of my fighters at the fight, and we had to start again and go and corner him and do the thing. They give me energy, and they keep me alive and young. So I'm so blessed.
Listen, dude, it's almost impossible to stop this conversation. I really want to do a second round, and I really thank you for the offer to get the fans involved, and I really, really want to do that. I actually wanted to do this before we met. Now that you've made it official that I got the green light for that,
for sure,
let's do it again, and we'll get the questions, and we'll bring you back in, and we'll knock them out, and I think that's a great way to build rapport with people.
Any questions that they want to ask, them, how personal or what it may be, that's what I'm here for. So
excellent.
Our platform's public, so
okay. Well, then I'm going to hold you to it. We'll do another one. James, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for coming out. This was the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Peltier, with my guest, MMA and Muay Thai superstar James McSweeney. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. Be sure to visit trashtalkmma.com.
Smile on my face, behind my back, they talk trash.
And don't forget to follow Antoine on Twitter at Trash Talk MMA. Let us know you're listening. Use hashtag Trash Talk MMA.